Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5-Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Hello, Rush Nation. Welcome along to the show. And as you can see, I'm finally official. I have my own title credit. Murf and Rob that put it together. I cannot thank you enough. I feel like I belong.
Well, I didn't do anything, mate. I was all Rob. Rob messaged me.
Rob. Thank you,
if
Rob.
anyone doesn't know Rob is one of our excellent people. He's coming back with the Fast Action Friday on Fridays in the season. He did the pod a couple of years ago with Pitsy. I think he's going to be doing it with Lewis in the regular season. And he's sort of a star behind the scenes. Does write some great running back pieces. He's kind of like our running back expert here at 5-Yard Rush. And big day for him as well. He got into the Scott Fish Bowl today, so that was mega news for him. And really grateful he did the titles and added you until we did it. So yeah, nice to have that official, because as you say earlier, you felt like you were in someone else's seat, and that's not really the case at all. It's you and me all the way, my friend. So
now you've all done that, I'm going to quit. Leave it to it. Just have my name up in lights every week and not be here anymore. So
I don't think anyone else will want to host the show with me, mate. It was lonely without you last week.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a few things come up. Life got in the way, unfortunately.
Oh, mate, it always does, but never worry about that. Jack dropped by. We had a great time, and we shared some strategy. So it's always good to sometimes just talk. I don't know how useful people find it, and maybe some people probably hate it. But look, Jack's messaged. Yeah,
Evening, Jack,
from last week. So hopefully a lot of you from last week started following Jack and picking up some tips from him, especially with the Live Golf that's going to be live. I think it's this week, isn't it? It's in the UK.
Yes. So
it's
going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a great time. But obviously, it's been a big week for the UK FFC. Gave away Scott Fish Bowl.
We did
spot. So what else is going on with the UK FFC?
We're finalising a couple of announcements still to come. There's some big surprise on the way. We're collecting some raffle prizes in. Got some great donations from different places that will be announced in due course. There's an exclusive competition for all the people that are going to be there that will be entered into as well for prizes. So that's going to be cool. We're down to almost single-digit tickets left. We're 40 days away. We talked to Bob Long the other week, and I think Bob said the first expo he done had something like 70 people present.
Yeah.
We're touching 100 on the first one we've done here, so it's a huge market for it here, and it's great to see that people have took on what we've decided to do and gone with it. So excuse me, tissue's out and I'm coughing my guts out. I had a stinking cold and been in bed all weekend, but I missed last week, so I thought I'd power through this week. Man flu is real. Tell the wife.
Absolutely. Well,
it's good to have nothing but eat, drink, and podcast. Bizarrely, everything else is beyond my abilities right now. So.
Well, we'll try and keep this one nice and tight. Share with the listeners. It's also my last one as a 36-year-old, so I'm looking forward. Yeah,
nice.
Birthday week. So
happy birthday for the week, sir.
Thanks. It's luckily at the weekend, so I don't know what
37's not great. I've been there a while. It's not wonderful. Yes, Jack, man flu is worse than giving birth. I can confirm. Women won't believe us. I've told them many times. I've actually gave up arguing the point anymore. I'm not getting anywhere with it, to be honest with you.
No, absolutely not. This is like the first time in like a month of being like, well, this year that I've actually felt all right with myself. It's been a bit of a crap year for my health, so I'm not rubbing it in, but it's been, I know quite a few people.
You forget what it's like to feel normal. You look at everyone around you and like, how are they normal? You forget what it's like. I mean,
100%.
It is bizarre. It is bizarre.
But today's show is going to be good.
Yes,
we don't have a guest today. It's you and me, and we're going to be a little bit more succinct. We're going to share some strategy. So we're starting to get to with June now, and we're starting to get into the redraft season. So we spent we spent the the last couple of months, sort of looking at rookies. We did some sort of preparation. We got some great guests on. We got a lot of insight into what these rookies are going to be. Got some insight on some consistency. But now it's really time to start hitting, I wouldn't say full throttle on redraft, but it's time to get away from, at least in our world, the dynasty rookie drafts. They're all kind of in the books. I still have one that doesn't start until July. But other than that, most people's rookie drafts are done. Most people have built their rosters for the year. And so now we're thinking about redraft. The official redraft season, there isn't really an official season, but I kind of think the Scott Fish Bowl draft, second week of July is kind of, for me, when the redraft season kicks into sort of full throttle.
Correct.
So
I've started doing a couple of odd redrafts here and there just to start seeing where boards are starting to fall, where the rookies are starting to slot in, so that when you do hit FFCC, I know it's a best ball slightly different, but that and Scott Fish Bowl and the like, when they all start JTT Cups coming up, when those guys all start coming up, you want to have an idea of where you can find value in bits and pieces. So I'm starting to look at redraft boards now just to try and get a gauge on who's going where, and also trying to mix it up. 12 teams. We've just recently done a 16 team, haven't we? Just to try and see how different people approach it at different times at the minute, and see where the variance is down in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely. So this show is going to be quite unique, because we're going to talk through some strategies that we adore, just the ones that we've been putting together either over the last few years or we're adopting so far this season. And everything's subject to change, right? You have to go with what the board says. But we're going to share a couple of strategies each. I think probably 3 each. We're going to use some live examples of what we've done in drafts and explain our strategy, our approach to. And this could be, don't have to keep it to just like 0 RB or hero RB or, it's just a case of these are the sorts of things we're trying to execute in drafts, whether it's roster construction, whether it's whether it is a 0 RB approach, or whether it's just looking at different types of strategies, just so people can come away with a few ideas of, one, what's going on in drafts right now, and 2, things that we're doing that we're finding and walking away with teams that we're either quite happy with or we're not happy with and they don't work. So and that's the best part of this part of the season. And if you're watching this live, then please do interact. Do feel free to jump in with a question, a comment, anything like that. Happy to kind of share some thoughts. So do you want to take the lead and go first, or do you want me to go first? I don't really mind.
I don't mind going first.
All right, go for it.
I'm going to go with my standard redraft approach, I guess, over the years. What are we working on? We're working on a 1 QB, super flex, doesn't really matter, a couple of running backs, 2, 3 wide receivers, and a couple of flex type setup. Standard, no matter where I am, I would genuinely be looking to take 2 to 3 running backs off the board in my first 2 or 3 picks. Okay. Always been a consistently heavy, hard running back guy early on.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's slightly different to my dynasty strategy. That's the long-term nature of it. Yeah. Especially redrafts PPR, we're looking for guys like Kamara to come above Cook and people like that this year, perhaps. And looking for those extra guys. Aaron Jones this year, PPR, potentially have a huge year. I'm not worried about them. So I am looking to, off the board, generally minimum of 2, usually 3 running backs, because that's going to fill my 2 running backs up, give me a flex spot every week with a starter, and I've got cover for when the bye weeks come by with 3 running backs there to rotate round.
Yeah, I completely agree. First of all, Stacey's joined in. Hi, Stacey. How's it going?
Hi, Stacey.
I completely agree. So I talk about this in the 2020 playbook, the 2021 playbook, and also the 2022 playbook. That
there is other stuff in the books, guys. Do buy it.
Honestly. It's not just
it doesn't just recur to take the same thing.
No, there is a lot of other stuff. But the reason is, I think, I look at the trends and position scarcity and everything else in there. And I advocate this, and I say this multiple times. I think you've got to take 2 running backs in the first 3 picks that you have. I just don't see any other path to success from a roster construction standpoint. And I know there are. I know people subscribe to other strategies, and that's fine. But I'm completely on board with you here that it wouldn't be uncommon for me to go 3 running backs if the value was there and if the picks were there. The same way I think a 2 running back strategy, opening 3 picks, that feels right to me. I look at the data. I look at what is going on with The success at positions. I look historically at where league winners come from. And, typically those running backs early off the board give you that perfect route to success. I talk about with using 4 years worth of data in the 2022 playbook, this idea of a perfect draft. So if you were to take like the best round per average per position per draft, how you would build your team. And it very much starts with 2 running back picks in the first 3 rounds. So
from my time learning fantasy, it was the consensus way to go. It always was. It's how I probably learned starting out playing was because of positional scarcity. Now, I will say I've started looking at boards this year and started to think I maybe don't need 3. I could probably get away with 2. And if value's elsewhere, I could probably get away with a top guy early on and then come back to it kind of rounds 4 and 5, depending on how many people are in the league and so on. But I mean, running backs later on, I'd be happy to get in a redraft. Melvin Gordon, I think potentially would be a recent value. Devin Singletary's going to be a lead back somewhere. Miles Sanders, I think, is going to perform better than he did. 100%. J.K. Dobbins, mid 4th round, something like that, early 4th round. So I think if I can get an early guy, I might start looking to change that slightly. But as long as I'm there, early, mid draft somewhere, I'm getting one first round. If I'm at the back end of a draft, I'm taking one of those first 2 picks somewhere.
And I think that makes complete sense because I think position scarcity, and I know that what's going to scare people off, and it actually hasn't. People talked about this last season, end of last season. I don't think I can go running back first round because of all the injuries. And, injuries to that position is very, very difficult. Exactly that. You have to load the position because it is the most important position on your roster in a 1 QB league. Now, if we're talking Superflex, this is completely different. But in a 1 QB league, which is what the majority of people listening to this will play in the majority of the time, you have to take advantage of position scarcity because there are not that many running backs who will have that true workload to be an elite talent in fantasy football. And you just got to look at it from simple, logical perspective. There's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, of which you do tier them. You have you can tier, but effectively there's sort of 8 or 9 guys that are separated, maybe 10, separated from the rest of the field. And as long as you get one of those, yes, taking one slightly earlier than others will give you advantages. But essentially, if you've got one of those 10 guys, you're going to be...
Russell Wilson to a Tom Brady half a round later is not going to matter a lot.
Right. Exactly that. You'll get a small penalty, but you make that up with other positions that you take. And kind of could work itself out. I don't think there's a huge penalty. That's the kind of whole point. Wide receivers, there's 2 starting wide receivers minimum on every single team. That's 64 viable wide receivers. Not all 64 are going to be viable for fantasy football. You'd probably say 40, 50 guys. And again, we're talking about people at the top will separate. But very rarely does the wide receiver 1 come from those sort of first 4 or 5 wide receivers off the board. Very rarely. Devontae Adams did it in 2020.
Michael Thomas 2020.
Michael Thomas a few years ago. But they're kind of few and far between. Doesn't happen that often. You can get contributors in those late mid rounds. Cooper Kupp last year. Deebo Samuel was very late last year. There are guys later on in the board that do come up and surprise. Stephon Diggs in 2020. There's so many examples of guys who
Cortland Sutton this year. Market.
Probably, there you go. And that's where, tight ends don't, there's 4 or 5 tight ends that are relevant. The rest of whatever. That's why running backs are so important to take early. And that's why I'm with you 110% on the strategy, because there are 15 guys. Before I think that maybe 18. And then it just plummets. It really does. Like there's a cliff, you go straight off it, and then you've got guys.
I'll be honest, I enter a 12-team redraft, and if I see somebody in the first 2 rounds taking a wide receiver or a quarterback, I am more than happy because I'm aware that that's a spot gone. That means another running back's coming back round to me somewhere.
Exactly.
And I might start mixing it up in drafts now to see how I feel with 1 early and then picking up sort of 4th and 5th and seeing how that looks. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to vary very much off it, to be honest with you.
No, I think it's more than, like I said, I think it's more than the viable strategy. It's what I subscribe to. I'm with you on it 100%. And I think it's important. And that's actually going to tie in a little bit to a strategy I want to share, which is
Go on,
when I'm drafting, it's
Yeah.
about looking at taking as many running backs or wide receivers as possible on my roster.
Yeah.
So I want 75% of my roster to be running backs and wide receivers where possible. So give you an example of a league where I do this.
So mine probably differs slightly on that because I'm not so hot on the wide receivers.
Well,
so I'd probably 3 wide receiver, 2 flex. I'd probably look to roster 7, maybe 8 wide receivers. Late rounds, I'm just pumping.
Well, it depends how big you're. I'm looking at 16 picks, right? So standard league, 16. I'm talking about 16 picks, right? So, so this is where I'm slightly. This is where I'm emphasizing this point.
So 16 picks, everyone's still a viable option.
Yeah.
Right, what we got here? Where are we, sir?
That's
in the second view. That's unusual.
Yeah, well, I saw the value there. So I wouldn't normally do it, but Kelsey at 2-4 for me felt it was decent, right? So what I want to do here and highlight this point, because I've gone tight end early, I'm not taking. I take one really late, just as a sort of flyer, but I don't normally. Like normally, I would just sort of anchor Kelsey and go, but I have a bit of a soft spot for Logan Thomas at where I've got him. If Gronk had gone, I'd have gone there. If he wasn't there, I wouldn't have bothered. You notice I've only taken one QB.
Yeah.
I've got an elite QB. Why am I taking the second one?
Doesn't make one guy for 1 week.
Yeah. Right. I'll pick one when Arizona are on a bye week. They got a reasonably late bye week this year. I can kick that can down the road. So I don't need to worry about another QB. So why am I taking another one? You can question whether or not I should have taken Logan Thomas. I don't really care. I took him. And then I taken a D because I got the Bucks D, I think, very late, and I'm very happy to take them. They're my DST2 ranked on the season. But there's no kicker. There's no backup QB. Every other pick on this board is running back and wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I've taken shots, right? Marcus Valdes-Scantling in the 14th round.
Yeah,
if it doesn't pan out, it's Trey Sermon, 16th round.
I love Naheem Hines there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've just taken some shots. If these guys don't pan out, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I've got guys who I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to drop someone for a kicker at some point. I'm going to have to drop someone to get a kicker on board. But I don't have to at the moment. I've got a long time to sit on this. So I can sit here, watch camp. How is Marcus Valdes-Scantling going into camp? How's Trey Sermon going into camp? Are these guys likely to get any form of playing time?
They're taking workload in pre-seasons. And
exactly that. It just gives me the opportunity because if Trey Sermon goes off in pre-season, I don't have to race to the waiver wire and go and get him. And that's why, especially early drafts, we're talking about from now to August, late August, I just think don't draft a kicker. Doesn't make sense. I think it's a waste. As a team here, no offense, have drafted 2. Certainly not doing that. Even like you got 2 elite kickers. I don't really get the point of that. But just in general, like for me, I took a DST because they're my DST2. I've got them in the second to last round. I'm quite happy with that. They're a set and forget. They're a week 12 by the Bucks. So again, don't have to kick. I can kick that reserve DST down the road. I'm starting them every week. Set and forget position. Quarterback, set and forget.
Could be locked into a playoff position by week 12 and just leave it be. Keep them on the roster, not bother changing anybody. Use a spot for another running back. We spoke about last year how you gamble on picking picks up for the playoffs, right?
Exactly that. And if Logan Thomas doesn't pan out, fine, cut him. I can cut anyone. Anyone from Jacoby Myers down. If these picks don't work, with the exception of the Bucks D, they're getting cut. It's not a problem. And that's where I bought myself some shots. If Melvin Gordon doesn't pan out, Kareem Hunt doesn't pan out, but Naheem Hines does. That's what I mean. I've got enough here to go after and anchor myself into a good position. So that's why I like to draft a lot more running backs, a lot more wide receivers, and just not worry about if I take an elite quarterback, just don't worry about taking a second. You don't need to. It's just what you taking a second. You're going to drop them in the first 4 weeks of the season anyway. Maybe I shouldn't take Logan Thomas. That's something I'll probably, if I had to change my draft, I probably would change this pick. But I do have an affinity for Logan Thomas. I think he could be, we're talking about someone who was the tight end 4 a couple of years ago.
In the draft we done just now as well.
And Wentz loves tight ends. Wentz does target tight ends. He targets tight ends a lot. But if it doesn't pan out, drop him. Quite happy. It could be trade bait for someone. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I wanted to fill up with as many shots as I've got late on, and that's what I think is a much better strategy. I know you agree with this as well.
I am very heavy on fade and tight end. I just think outside of 5 guys, nobody else is going to be a tight end one. And between those 5, pick which one's going to be tight end one. Realistically, I don't think you can. So
that's where I will differ with you slightly.
Okay.
I think for me, Travis Kelce is a lock at tight end 1.
Okay.
I know he wasn't last year. He missed a game or 2.
Yep.
Mark Andrews set franchise records. He set franchise records.
He also did a lot of that with Tyler Huntley rather than Lamar Jackson.
That's not
what a lot of people overlook. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Mark Andrews is not a good tight end. He's a very good tight end. Yep. He's going to finish in the top 5 tight ends, right? Yep. But for me, it's a Travis Kelce or it's probably going to be your strategy.
See, I'm on Kelsey's lost Hill, so they'll double team Kelce, and that takes away some of his options.
I don't think you can double Kelce. I don't think you can double.
Bucked in the Super Bowl quite easily.
He still finished with 120 yards and 10 catches. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, but he still put up a 22-point PPR day, like in the Super Bowl. Because
he was incredibly injury prone.
Yeah.
QB situations unresolved. Mark Andrews said had a fantastic year last year, but a lot of that was off the back of Tyler Huntley. I'm not a fan of TJ Hockenson myself anyway. And Darren Waller's just added Devonta Adams into the mix.
Yeah.
So I can't justify the cost at any one of them. The bottom one of them, TJ Hockenson, this is a draft here. Cordell Patterson, Miles Sanders, Jalen Waddle, all going in a similar round to him. Chris Godwin, I'll take one of those guys all day long. I'll kick my can down the road. Occasionally, every now and then, if value's there, I don't mind dipping into that kind of next tier. I'm a big fan of Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. I'm expecting big things from Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett this year. So don't mind one of those guys if they sit there nicely for me. If they don't, I will just keep on passing, and I'll go right to the end. I'll grab an Adam Troutman or a Logan Thomas, like you say, a bit later on, or Cam Brake, someone who's going to be trying to be touchdown dependent. Even a Taysom Hill, it's going to be touchdown dependent. He may serve a decent week, a rushing touchdown. Thank you very much. He may outscore a Dallin Waller that week. So for the value I'll get, I'll keep fading it. And if they don't pan out, if they don't work, I'll go and get the next guy up and see what happens. Or when Kittle gets injured, which is bound to happen. I mean, who handcuffs tight ends these days?
Well, it doesn't. No one does.
It doesn't. So when Kittle goes down, I'll go get Tyler Croft or someone like that instead that's going to pick up the role and hope he gets half the production that Kittle does.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just how I've always seen tight end. And I guess it's changed slightly over recent years. Tight end premium leagues coming in and they've tried to increase that value. And I can kind of understand why. As I say, I'm not against those guys in those early rounds. I just look at who's there and I can't justify it. And I'd use a similar theory to what you do with the QBs. You can let it, forget it, and move on and come back to it later. But week in, week out is, I don't know, Dalton Schultz in round late 4, early 5, going to outscore Cole Kmet, who I'm picking up in 10 and 12.
Yeah.
By that many each week? Probably not. I can probably, the wide receiver difference at that stage, or the running back differential, is probably greater than the tight end differential.
So I think early in the season. So I think we're out now in draft season. So I look at Travis Kelce at say the 2.4 to 2.6 range that I've been seeing him going in drafts. And for me, I think he's a value there because I do think he returns you such a huge advantage at the tight end position.
Yeah.
Like he's going to outscore most tight ends by 5 to 8 points a week. It's quite
a year or two ago. He finishes like wide receiver 4 or something.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, he's got that potential.
And that's what I mean. And I think with the fact that Hill's not there, he is going to be a target machine. I think he's going to get a lot of work. I look at that and think if you can get a really good running back in round 3. So that draft I showed you, I got Fournette at the 3.9. I would have taken Fournette.
She passed on Aaron Jones as well to take Kittle as well.
Well, I have, and I'm quite happy to do that if I'm getting Fournette at the 3.9 because for me, Fournette is a
first round pick in redraft this year for me.
Well, I think he's up there.
If I'm at the 10-12 pick, I'm getting him and Jones, him and Mixon, someone like that, round that turn all day long at the minute this year.
His ADP doesn't reflect that. His ADP is still third round. I have him as
He's going to be a
in
big
PPR.
changer.
I have him at RB6, and I think I'm a bit light. He is
locked in, lead back, catching game work, touchdown, high scoring offense.
Exactly
all day long
that.
for me.
And I'm looking at the drafts thinking I can get Fournette at the 3.9. So if someone I'm quite happy to take at the 2.4, I'm getting at the 3.9. Why wouldn't I take a shot at Kelsey knowing I can potentially get Fournette?
Yeah.
And if I get, like I said, so that for me, I start with a Mixon Kelsey Fournette start.
Yeah,
I think
it's must be.
Yeah, and that's why I think for me, Kelsey's the only one I'd pay that price for. I couldn't pay that price for Andrews. Andrews is going not much later than Kelsey. It's all going on that 2-3 turn.
It's all going off last year's figures, though, right? Recency bias.
It's recency bias, but you're drafting him at his ceiling. You know, as I said, the guy broke franchise records to get this. As you said, he did a lot of it with his backup QB. His career, he's inconsistent. Good year, not so good year. Good year, not so good year.
Well,
and
this game's the last 2 years till last year.
Yeah, and that plays a part in that, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Waller's 30, and he's got 30-31, and he's got Devontae Adams in town. That's going to be tough. Kittle, as you say, can't rely on him to play that many games. Kyle Pitts is the only other player. But in the 4th round, how many touchdowns do you think Kyle Pitts? He scored 1 last year.
He did.
I think he goes. Yeah, there you go. I think he'll go up from 1, but I don't think he's getting 10.
Well, this is it. I look at tight ends, and as I said earlier, the late guys I'm taking, I'm looking for touchdown-dependent tight ends.
Yeah.
I don't care about the yardage on them. Just throw them a touchdown, 1 in 3 games, 1 in 2 games, and they'll be serviceable. They can score me 7 touchdowns a year. I'll take that.
What you want? Ideal stat line for a tight end in fantasy football, especially PPR, 4 for 42 and a touchdown. Cheers.
Yeah. I was going 5 targets, 3 receptions, 36 yards and a score. That'd do.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing you want. That's all that matters. And so I'm with you. So we've talked about
9-10 points every week.
Yeah. And I think that's where you and I are very similarly aligned. I will if I do think if there is value in Kelsey, I will do it. But he's the only one I would do it for. I'm with you. I'd fade everyone else. It doesn't.
How are you on that middle tier, like I said about? So when I'm looking at Goddard, Ertz, you're not. You're either going early or late.
Well, it depends how late they go.
Okay.
So for me, I won't look at a tight end. If I've decided that I'm not going Kelsey, I'm not looking at a tight end before round 9.
Okay.
It's just not happening.
Yeah.
Because the players you can get around. So let's look at an average roster construction, right? We've talked about 2 running backs in the opening 3 rounds. Then you'll want to hammer the wide receiver position. So by round 5, you should have, for me, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers, or 2
and 3
running backs, 3 wide receivers.
So then you're going tight end or QB, whichever one's got the value.
I'm going QB because I want to pick one of the elite 5, 6. Right? So I'm going to miss on Allen, which upsets me a little bit. Unless if he is late 3rd, early 4th, I'm prepared to push the button there.
Okay.
If not, I'm happy to pass on Mahomes. I'll pass on Mahomes every year. It doesn't bother me. I'm getting interested around Herbert, Murray, that kind of range is where I start to prick my ears. And I know Tom Brady is, and I have Tom Brady higher on my board.
Yeah.
But the risk of not getting him is great. Like if you miss out on him, for me, there goes to be that drop of it's stuck with Dak, which is fine. Yeah. But I almost think as a safety net in round 6, if I can get Kyler Murray, I think I got Kyler Murray late 6 in that example that we
Where did
showed.
Lamar go in that round out of curiosity?
Lamar went in the 5th. Okay. So Mahomes went, so Allen went 212, Mahomes went 3-8 in this one example. Herbert 4-11, Lamar Jackson 5-3, Burrow 5-6. That's far too rich for me. So at that point, I'm 5 QBs off the board. Yeah. And I know picking at 6-4, at 7-9, my choices are thin.
Well, you're coming into Rodgers, we don't have the receiving room. Hurts, potentially
Stafford.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my net there is I don't really want Prescott, but I would take him.
Yep.
But for me, Rodgers, Wilson, Brady, that's like Hurts. That's the
Stafford,
sort of
I'd
net
put
of
Stafford in
four.
that as well.
He's a bit lower for me, but
Okay.
yeah, but I wouldn't want to take at the 7-9. If those players all go, I'm streaming QB.
Yeah.
And I'm probably picking someone like Trey Lance in like the 9th. And then I'm going from there. So I'm looking at QB around round 5, round 6, maybe round 7 at least. If I'm at the front end of the draft, so like 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, I might wait till that 7th round if the board allows me to. And then I'll probably punch the ticket there. If Brady's there, I'm probably taking him there. So that's why I can't look at, because then rounds 7, 8, 9 for wide receivers and running backs there, I think are terrific. You're looking at like Miles Sanders, AJ Dillon, Kareem Hunt, Devin Singletary,
Melvin Gordon,
Melvin
and that's
Gordon,
what I said. This is
Cordell
why I said I
Patterson.
may actually change my approach a bit, because I'm getting to them rounds and going, I quite like them. I don't need them now though.
Yeah.
You know?
But then look at the wide receivers there: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Traylon Burks, Robert Woods, Gabe Davis, who I love this year, Darnell Mooney, Cortland Sutton, DeAndre Hopkins, if you can put up with the suspension.
No, not in a redraft.
Drake London, you're getting in that range, who I think, there's no one else really to throw to. Like, I'm looking at that range of players and think, do I necessarily need a Dallas Goedert, a Dalton Schultz, who's going to put up tight end 6 numbers? Do I really want to chase? Or am I better off waiting until the 10th, 11th round for, like you say, Cole Kmet, even a Hunter Henry, Gronk, you'll get a huge discount on right now because no one knows he's playing, but we know he's coming back.
I think people are getting wise to that one as well. I think I've seen him gradually start to. I've done a lot of vertical drafts at the minute, and people are gradually picking him up round earlier than you expect him to, and so on. So he's on his move. He's on the move.
He is, but I can't see him accelerating past round 9. I think that would be a shock because I think people were worried about his injuries. I mean, the guy finished as a tight end 7 last year, and he tight end 7, tight end 8 last year, and he missed like 6 games.
PPI finished 7.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're looking at what. There's just too many players in that 11th round, 10th round for tight ends. Kmet, Hunter Henry, who I think is in line for touchdown regression, but he's Mac Jones's almost favourite red zone weapon. And if you're hunting touchdowns, I can't really look past someone like that. Rob Gronkowski, I think there's a few tight ends in that 10th round range who I think are going to be there or thereabouts.
Dawson Knox.
No, I'm out on Dawson Knox this year.
Okay.
I just think OJ Howard is going to. Yeah, I think OJ Howard's going to take a bit of work, and the problem with Dawson Knox is he's so streaky. So you'll score 3 touchdowns in a row and then not score for 8 games, and that is the Dawson Knox effect. Like, I just think I'm not in on that. I'm not in on that. Like, I did take him in a draft, and then I actually immediately regretted it. I'm quite happy to take. Other players who I think, like for me, Tyler Higbee. I'd take Tyler Higbee over.
He scored 9 touchdowns last year. To put it in perspective, he scored 5 in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then he scored 4 in 5 weeks.
And did nothing in between.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in between. And bookended either end as well.
Yeah.
So
he was great at the fantasy playoffs if you held on to him. And he was great at the start of the season. And he was rubbish when all your bye weeks were going on and everything else. And I think that's why, And I think people were putting him in flex spots, and you think, I don't like Titans in flex spots anyway, but that's a different story. And I think, when you look at roster construction, the things we're talking about here strategy-wise, it all predicates to this, what you talked about right at the very beginning. It's doing the drafts. It's knowing who's going where.
Yeah.
We are knowing who is going where, who's available in drafts at what stage, so that we can start to form some of these strategies of, I'm thinking I'm going to go QB maybe in round 6, depending what the board is telling me, because I know from my roster construction, I'm going to get this player in this tier, or I'm going to get that player in that tier. It's so important to know that, because in terms of when you're looking at, not every draft's going to be the same. You know, you're not going to get away with this. But there are a lot of drafts you do where you can predict what's going to happen. And you can pretty much, I've got into a draft, no word of a lie. I've written down who I want in every single round and got every player I wanted in every single round.
Well, we just did a draft where I wrote down every player I wanted in every single round, and you took them next to me every single round as well.
It's like I had a cheat sheet.
We was working on the turn, literally, and I'm going, okay, there's 3 guys I want. I'll take one. One of the other 2 will make it back to me. Nope, Murf at the other 2. We saw a thing on Twitter, and you probably saw it the other day. Someone said, if somebody had to draft a team for you, who would it be? I was like, well, Murf, because he just drafts everybody I want anyway, so we'll be fine. It'll just be my team with his name on it. So
we are very similar in our approaches, and that's getting to know your league mates, knowing who they draft, what they like.
And it's also because of the involvement I had with 5 Yard Rush as a fan before even getting here. To be honest with you, mate, it was doing the books and following you guys and reading what you do and listening to what 5 Yard put out as a whole. That has played a part in my fantasy development, if you will, my upbringing.
That's
Thank you, Dad.
But that's my whole game. Is I couldn't compete with Americans, so I thought if I brainwashed the entire UK generation to everyone draft the way I want to draft, I'll slightly pivot, take everyone they want.
That's it. You're gonna wait 10 years till the master plan's in effect, and then that's it. Just do something totally random and different, right?
We're in year 5.
Yeah,
it's going well. No, and I think that's and that's why we do shows like this. It's just an open discussion to see what's going on as those strategies, and you'll see we're quite aligned. And I know there's someone listening to this or someone watching this. Paul's chiding, cat's out of the bag. Yeah, 100%. But someone will be watching or listening to this and going, I just don't agree with these guys. Like, I don't agree. And do you know what? It's good. I don't want. One, tell us. But 2, it's good to have a contrarian strategy. Like, if everybody does the same thing,
that's how we all find value.
So I understand the principle of no 0 RB. I understand hero RB, which is you take 1 RB early and you fade the position. For me, our strategies, or the strategy at least I put together, and I think yours as well, is based on how we like our teams, where we think we get value. But we're also slightly cautious drafters, you and I. We are more on the conservative side, where we're thinking about backups and, if player A goes down,
don't take a lot of rookies.
Yeah.
It's a win now construction type.
And you're thinking about next man up. If so and so gets injured, I've got this guy who'll come in and fill my roster.
I'm reluctant on injured guys coming back and things like that. So
and you won't take an injury risk in round 1 unless you absolutely have to. There's a value. So you're not reaching for like a Dalvin Cook or someone like that. You will go for guys like me who will pick on players who will play.
Who did you mention? You mentioned D-Hop. Not touching him this year. 6 games out in a redraft league. What's the point? For me, I'm not going to bother.
I'll take him in round 10.
Yeah, but he ain't going to get to round 10.
No.
He's barely going to get to round 6.
No, and I agree with you. So I just don't want to hold someone for 6 weeks.
But what I'm saying in terms of injury-wise, I'm looking at, we'll use Tampa as an example because it's what we know. Redrafted Rams football. There we go. Stacey's got it.
Yeah.
Tampa. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, last year were being drafted practically side by side.
Yeah.
This year, in redraft, I will guarantee I'll have a lot more Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. 1, because of his touchdown dependency. And 2, because I know he should be starting the season at the very least. Okay, he may not make it through. No player may make it through. But I'm more certain Mike Evans starts week 1 than I am Chris Godwin. And I don't want to be on the back foot week 1. Why use a top 5 round pick on a player that may not play week 1?
I agree. I do. I'm more confident on Chris Godwin. And to be honest, I see Chris Godwin as a top 12 player if he starts week 1 or on the fringes.
And I agree.
And I think if I can get I think round 5 is where I start to loosen up a bit and think if I can get a top 12 player at the position in round 5, except tight end, no tight end. If I can get a top 12 wide receiver in the 5th round, I'm pushing that button because at that point, I'm starting to think, well, I've got my anchor. I've got my 2 running backs at least. I've got players who I trust will carry me and keep that stability. So now what I need to do is think about how I can accelerate. Because if you hit doubles all the way, like the way I look at the first 4 rounds of the draft, I'm not looking for home runs. I'm looking for doubles. I'm looking for someone who's going to come in the lineup and do what I draft them to do. So if I
Bottom
draft
line.
a running back in round 1, he needs to be an RB1. If I draft a running back in round 2, I would love him to be an RB1, but if he was a high-end RB2, I'm still quite happy with that.
Yeah.
If I take a wide receiver in round 3, he needs to be a fringe wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I need them to do. And when you do that, you think, okay, or however you take them, but you should be walking away with 2 top 15, top 16 running backs and a top 12, top 14 wide receiver in those opening 3 rounds. And if you can do that, that to me is what you should do. And then after that, you think, okay, well, now I need to start. I need to hit a couple of winners. I need to hit a couple of dingers, a couple of home runs. And round 5 for me, Godwin, who is a player who, if we knew was starting week 1, would be going in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
We know he's not going to be out much past week 1. If he misses week 1, I'm pretty certain he's back week 3. So then I think, well, okay, I'm pretty confident I think he'll be back or thereabouts week 1. So then I think, okay, if he's not, I'm quite happy to take the risk because I know I'll pick someone in round 12 who will carry me through week 1.
Yeah.
And that
no different from a bye week, effectively. It's just
it's just almost having a double bye week. But for the discount you're going to get on a player who's potentially a fringe wide receiver 1, I'm quite happy to take that risk. Whether it's, I see for me, like you look at the players that go there in that range, I would take Godwin over DJ Moore. I would take Godwin over. Let's look at the players going in that range.
Mike Williams, Marcus Brown.
Yeah.
Johnson maybe falls that far.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods, Devonta Smith. It's no brainer. Like for me, he's so far ahead of all those guys.
Yeah.
Like it's not close. I'm thinking, I'm easily being suckered into, but then it means not taking Mike Evans. And so that's where your strategy comes in because you can't take both. You can't have, whereas I think you can take Godwin and Gage. I don't think you or Evans and Gage. I don't think you can take Evans and Godwin. I don't think you can have them both. I think that would be a recipe for disaster.
Correct. Yeah.
But I do think because of the price you get on Russell Gage, I think you can take one of the other 2 and take Gage. Because
he becomes flex payable.
Yeah. He becomes flex payable. I think he's a steal where he is. I still think he's a steal. And I think getting him in the 9th, 10th round is just insane value. Because if Godwin's not ready week 1, Gage is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
And if he is, I still don't think that makes a difference because as we said with Bob, I think he gets a lot of 7 for 70 games. I'm quite happy
as Antonio Brown did because they can't come all free. And
I'm quite
Gage
happy
was brought there for a reason.
They paid him a lot of money.
They did.
Yeah, you got to follow the money. 3 for 30 is a lot of money for a wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
We're going a team that's going to throw the ball up. I think, so I'm with you on that 100%. Do you ever have a strategy that you kind of live by that you think this season that you would be applying?
Yeah, but I've just kind of contradicted it in the last bit we were talking about, so I don't know if I do now.
Go on.
We spoke about it before, but the second player, finding the value in the second player. I mean, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I guess actually last year I would have took the second player. It's the injury this year that's preventing me from doing so. The big one this year seems to be Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They were far apart and they're sort of coming back together and almost flip-flopping. But Jerry Jeudy goes before Cortland Sutton. They're very similar at the minute. And Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, look at the difference in value of them. They had identical seasons last year in redraft, practically. Identical.
Lockett and DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I'm probably not drafting either of them this year, to be honest with you.
But if you're in that hole,
yeah, take the value. Where's Tyler Lockett going? Tyler Lockett's probably going what? 9th round? He's going to be with.
So I'm looking at some boards now. In the analysts, he's going in. He's going really late. I can't even find him.
He's probably in with the DJ Shark, Jameson Crowder type, Jarvis Landry, perhaps that kind of bracket, right?
Wow, I actually can't see. Oh no, someone reached for him in the analyst. Someone reached for him at 6'1". In the other draft, he's looking at 6, so mid 6, 6, 7.
Okay, I'd have had him later than that, to be honest with you.
But you got DK Metcalf going 2.5 rounds higher.
Yeah, I'd take Lockett if I had to. If I don't, if I'd done 2 running backs, found value at a tight end, and I found myself a positional hole, then yeah, I'd take the second one and lock it there.
I tend to agree with you on this one.
Yeah, wide receiver 2s and 3s. I bet Gabriel Davis is going before Jamison Crowder.
Oh, all day long.
I'll take Jamison Crowder.
Nah, see, that's where, for me, I will slightly disagree with you. And here's where I'm going to go with this caveat with this. I agree that you go with the cheaper player, i.e. the lower ranked player, unless that player is new to the team.
Okay.
Because new wide receivers on new teams tend to not perform overly well.
Okay.
On a consistency basis over the season. They tend to see a drop-off. And I get your point because he's walking into that Cole Lockett or Cole Beasley role that kind of was quite a successful role. He did recently.
And even Emmanuel Sanders last year. Gabriel Davis hasn't had that faith. He's been out.
But Gabriel Davis had massive games in the playoffs. He had massive games at the end of the season when he kind of established himself into that role.
Yep.
And that, for me, is when you've got a new player on that team who's coming in. It's the same for me with the Rams. So, like, all right, this is a bit of a different scenario because you've got Cooper Kupp, who's miles ahead and probably the best wide receiver in fantasy football, and you've got Allen Robinson. Yep. Now, for me, because Allen Robinson's new to that offense, I think he's going to be fine. But if you're talking about Allen Robinson and Van Jefferson, the difference between those players is like one's going in like the 14th round and the other's
going. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, where's Allen Robinson going? He's going in like the 8th, 7th round, maybe even a bit earlier than that. So when you're looking at that and you're thinking it's 6 rounds, sort of cut a 6th round he's going. So you're looking at 8 rounds. Give me, for me, I'm taking Van Jefferson. I don't think there's going to be. I think there's going to be a difference. I don't think it's huge. I don't think it's like 100 points difference. So I'm with you on this because I think Allen Robinson's going to not be as good as people expect him to be because of the fact he's going to take time. He's got to acclimatize to that offense. He's got to get on the page with the quarterback. There's less preseason games. There's less games in which they're going to have that opportunity to get on the same page. You know, this is why I'm all for taking a shot on someone like Marquez Valdes-Scantling in the 14th round, but I don't necessarily expect it to pan out. I'm willing to see if it does. But I'm also like, if
at
it
very
doesn't,
little cost, that's the key.
Well, that's what I mean. And I think, you know, it's why I'm always very weird. Rookies are slightly different because of the way they're drafted. I think there's a pressure to get a first round wide receiver the ball. But if, like, for example, let's take the example of Juju Smith-Schuster and Sky Moore. I would much rather have Sky Moore, who's going 4-5 round later than Juju, than Sky Moore.
Yeah,
I'd rather Sky Moore than Juju because I think Juju's on a 1-year contract. There's no long-term investment in him. He's new to that team. He's kind of with another set of guys. So Sky Moore is there. He was heavily invested in. I think, I would rather have that. I think there are some exceptions to this rule. For example, whoever the wide receiver 2 is at Indy and Michael Pittman.
Yeah, Alec Pierce.
If he is, I mean, whoever it is. I mean, it could be anyone.
Alec Pierce. I know so much Alec Pierce.
Rashad Bateman versus the second wide receiver in Baltimore.
That could be me and you at this rate. So
Amon St. Brown and DJ Chark. I'd rather have
I love DJ Chark. No, I love DJ Chark.
Well, okay. But so we have some differences, but I think as a general rule,
but that is adding player preference to the rule, right?
Yeah, I think it is. See, again, DJ Chark, I look at him. He's a new player to that team. He's got to get on board. You know, for me, I think that's the risk. I don't love new wide receivers on new teams. And
we're talking about guys where there's a bit of a variance. I was talking more of the guys that are bracketed almost together as well sometimes, you know, like we did a draft recently. Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay went two positions apart.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'd rather take neither and take Wan'Dale Robinson, but there you go.
Yeah, you never know, right? I don't know. It's just saying for me. I always try to, if I've got them both there, and I guess the Williams one last year, Javonte Williams and his name escapes me. Melvin Gordon really brought back when I sat back and looked at the figures. Actually, and I play a lot of Dynasty, and it may be that factoring in. Giovanni Williams is going incredibly high with such a great profile. They had the same season.
Yeah.
Do you know?
But the same is also said, mate, with Tyler Lockett and Metcalf. So I looked at last season. So I wrote this in the 2021 playbook. I wrote there's a 4-round difference between DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Why would you draft them when they put up virtually the same season? Last season, they were separated by, there was a gap, but again, it was a 4-round ADP.
Yep.
They were separated by, I'm just looking now.
Well, I'm just going to come back to my Gordon Williams while you look it up.
I tell you why I got it here. They were separated by, over the course of a season, and they played the same amount. Did they play some amount of games?
Metcalf.
Metcalf played one game more.
Yeah.
He outscored Tyler Lockett by 19, just short of 19.1 points.
Okay, so Williams and
over the
Gordon
course of the season
were separated by less than 9 points.
Yeah.
Less than 9 points. I'll take Melvin Gordon 6 rounds later. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Exactly that. And again, the same goes with Lockett and
either of them could go down as well. If either of them goes down and you're sat on the right one, you're laughing. Yeah, granted, Melvin Gordon goes down, Williams picks up a workload. But if it's the other way round, what a windfall I've got in that round.
Yeah, 100%.
That is a league-winning pick in round 8 or 9.
Yeah. And the same goes for Metcalf and Lockett. They were separated over the course of the season by 0.3 points per game on average.
Yeah.
And you get one 4 rounds later. Like if you drafted DK Metcalf in the second round last year, you lost your shirt.
Yeah.
It was the same last year with Deontay Johnson. He was going after Chase Claypool in drafts. That's maddening to me. That made no sense. And this strategy will work out for you more often than not. Not always, but more often than not.
Yeah, fine. So what else have you got for us? Anything else?
I think for me, so this is a bit of a sneaky one, right? So I was looking to that. Oh, here we go. Stacey's asked a question. Who is the one player you're looking at dropping to the later rounds, or the one you think will be a steal in the later rounds?
Okay.
You're looking
at how late he's talking, I guess, but
yeah. I'll go by position for this one for me and give you some time to think. So quarterback for me, Tom Brady. I think if you can get him round 7 or below, I think he's a steal. Massive steal for me compared to the rest of the field. But you have to know your league and know where you think he's going to go. The best thing I'm seeing on Twitter right now is
he ain't getting there.
But there's so many analysts right now that haven't got Tom Brady in their top 12 of redraft rankings. Love it. Please tank his value. Let him go into the 8th or 9th round. Yeah. That would make me a really, really happy boy. I have him quarterback 3 this year. So tank his value. Let him go down as much as possible. If I can get him in the 8th round, 9th round, thanks for coming. Running back for me, going really, I would say late, but I think is a good value. Later rounds for running backs is very different. So for me, I'm looking at round 7 again and beyond. Yeah. I think Miles Sanders is a terrific value. I think he's an RB2 in the mid to late 7th round. I think
me and Ali said that on our draft winners and losers. Miles Sanders has come into this year. Value is tanked because of performance last year.
No touchdowns last year. No touchdowns last year. He's in for huge positive touchdown regression, as I talked about last week. I highlighted this. So 2 weeks in a row, we've given him some love, and I think absolutely Miles Sanders is a steal.
Yeah.
If I'm looking the later rounds, Naheem Hines, we've both talked about him. I think he is, again, another player I'd be looking at the top 24 running backs there or thereabouts, especially in PPR, and he's a premium handcuff. If something happens to Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines is going to get the work. There isn't anyone else on that roster who's going to get that kind of work. So those two players. Wide receiver, I talk about him every week, Russell Gage. Russell Gage is the absolute steal of the century for me right now. I'm picking him up in every draft. 10th round, thanks for coming. There's no doubt. I think there's a lot of steals at wide receiver, to be honest. I think you could name, we could name half a dozen players in the later rounds. I think there's some absolute steals that you can get in the later rounds with almost no difficulty. But he's one I will take in those sort of late ranges. Tight ends, I think, again, we've talked about this. I think Gronk is a steal right now because not everyone is clued up in the thing he's playing. But Cole Kmet is my other one. I think Cole Kmet is going to be in
no touchdowns last year.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen again. Justin Fields will get better. That offense will get better.
Yep.
He had a lot of red zone looks and he had a lot of targets. He just didn't score any touchdowns. I see him easily getting back to 6-7 touchdowns next year. So I see him as around about sort of a tight end 8. I think he's going to do a job. If you're not going to take tight end early, I think you get him in like the 13th, 12th round. Even if you have to reach into the 11th round to get him, I'm more than comfortable doing that at that stage. I don't think anything from the 11th round onwards is not a reach for me. Like that's not reaching. You're in the doldrums. Take who you want at that range.
Fair.
You?
For me at quarterback, I'm liking Jalen Hurts. I think he is just outside that top bit. I think the rushing upside he gives is bigger than maybe some people think, and I think he does fall out of that top rushing quarterback group. But with the weapons he's now got and the line improvements, he could perform there. You need a bit of luck for that to deliver, but I think he could get there. I think he could put up Kyler Murray of last year numbers, sort of thing. Running back, similar bracket to you, Devin Singletary. Okay, they drafted James Cook, but he's still going 7th round. He's still going to be the lead back on Buffalo. He's going to serve his job. His
value is tanking like every day. It's
crazy, right? I'm looking at the draft we did here. Singletary went 2 places before James Cook. Why? What says James Cook's going to take that role off Singletary? Singletary earned that last year off of Zach Moss and people like that, because Zach Moss came into the year as their RB1. And Singletary delivered, and they showed faith in him. They still will this year. That's going to happen. AJ Dillon as well, I think, is in for a big year because I think Jones will pick up so much catching work. I think they'll rely on Dillon in the run game as things stand if that roster doesn't change. Wide receiver, one for me that really stands out, and you are right, there are a lot, but the one I'm picking up a lot late is Jarvis Landry. I think you see, look, new team. I get it. We've had this, but I think they're going to be a higher offense team with Jameis Winston if he comes back fit and healthy. Landry's more than a capable wide receiver. Landry over the last couple of years has missed games, but before that, he's returned top 12, top 20 performances. He ain't going to get back there, but he could serve you as a mid-wide receiver too. And if you're picking him up in the 8th, 9th, 10th round as your wide receiver 4 or 5, why would you not? Michael Thomas hasn't played a ball in 2.5 years. If he doesn't come back again, or he isn't right, or he isn't fit, or he goes down again, Landry's their wide receiver 1 on that roster, without a shadow of a doubt. So I'd take the upside on Landry at that stage.
I think for the price you get him, 12th round, 11th round, I think he climbs. I think he's probably going to be
got a man for me in drafts at the minute.
Yeah, I think
he won't go that late last year at the Browns.
No, I think he's probably
situation's better now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he's probably going to go. I think when it's all said and done, late 8th, 9th round, I think is where you'll see Jarvis Landry in the peak of draft season where I see him going. But I completely agree with you that I think Jarvis Landry, again, I get it, he's a new player, but I look at those rounds, I think, as you say, you've got an uncertain situation there. Kamara might not play some games. He might get banned. Michael Thomas, we don't know what's going on there. And we know Jameis can sling it. And they don't have a slot receiver. They don't have. That's why they paid Jarvis Landry. They don't have a slot receiver.
Correct.
They haven't had a slot receiver for 2 years. And I get that Michael Thomas is going to work that role. It's going to put some spaces in for Landry. I guess the one thing with Landry, and this is where I'm going to curb the enthusiasm slightly.
Go on.
Jarvis Landry's had amazing situations where he's never produced wide receiver 1 numbers.
Correct.
And I think for where you get him in a draft, especially right now,
I'm not looking for him to pick wide receiver 1 numbers.
No, and that's
I'm looking for him to deliver top wide receiver 3 numbers, and I'll take it. Right. If he can get into wide receiver, if he can get into the top 50 wide receivers, I'm okay with that right there.
Right. And I think that's the setting the expectation of what to get from Jarvis Landry, because for me, I can see a path to Russell Gage being a top 20 wide receiver in round 10. And I don't think it's a huge leap. I've got him at 29, but I can see a path quite clearly where if he picks, 7 for 70 every week and he scores 8 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns, he's going to be roundabout wide receiver 20. That's going to be roundabout where he ends up. it's not an unbelievable reach for him to get to there.
Yeah.
But I have him at 29. I think he's easily a wide receiver 3.
So the lowest Landry's ever finished was last year, 54. He only played 12 games.
Injured.
Take that out of the equation.
Yeah,
His rookie year, he finished 34.
Yeah.
34.
And I think he is a solid wide receiver 3 bet, but I think he's not going to give you a lot of ceiling games. He's just going to give you a lot of high floor games. Yeah. I would be having Jarvis Landry on my roster as someone who is a good bye week filler.
We're
safe.
We're safe drafters.
I agree with you. Yeah. And I think this is where I can see why his price is the way it is, because he is a very conservative player at a very late stage of a draft where people will rather take shots.
That's my upside, is the fact that Thomas may not come back. He may gel better with Winston than Thomas does. That's the upside I'm looking for there. He may become his reliable guy that Winston needs to dump off to, because he doesn't dump off, actually. I don't know what we're talking about. We've had 5 years of that. But I'm in panic. I'm in a rush. I just love it that way and see what happens. But hey, they may coach it out of him. Somebody may coach it out of him. Please, God, somebody coach it out of him. But no, as I say, I don't need him to be a top 20 wide receiver there. I need it to be a top 50, and I'm okay with that. And hey, if Michael Thomas don't play, he gets more use. He could break the 35 mark if it all works out well.
While we're on strategy,
go on.
I'm gonna change Stacey's question.
Go on.
Right, and then we're gonna play this in reverse.
Go on.
So, who is the one player?
Yep.
In each position that you think is getting severely overdrafted and that you're going to avoid at current ADP at all costs?
Patrick Mahomes, I'm not taking that early at all.
Right. Yeah.
Easy one. Second easy one is Javonte Williams. As I said, he shares Melvin Gordon's job. Why bother? Wide receiver for me, CD Lamb, perhaps. Maybe AJ Brown. The two of them.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. The other one, actually, wide receiver. Them two are T. Higgins as well. All three of them. Similar bracket. Yeah, I'm not taking a wide receiver 2 on a team that early in a draft.
Okay.
AJ Brown's the unknown with a running quarterback who's not known for his accuracy and propensity to throw the ball. CD Lamb, I think, with the loss of Cooper and the injury to Gallup, there's going to be huge expectations on him early. Yes, he should get a load of targets. I just need to see him deliver for a year before I can spend that kind of cost on him. But where he's going, and I may miss out this year. He may well do that. He may well surprise me. I'll take that chance. I'll worry about that next year when I draft him in the 3rd round, 2nd round instead. Tight end, probably Kittle or Waller. I probably would, if the value was there, take an Andrews or a Kelsey. I don't think I'd touch Kittle or Waller this year. 1 for the injuries, 2 for the competition at the position.
Okay. Nice. You? So you've said Mahomes. That's definitely one for me. The other one is Joe Burrow.
Correct, yeah.
I think Joe Burrow is massively overdrafted for what he is. Yeah. And I don't see a path where he is going to be. I'm just going to look at where I've got him now in my QB rankings. Let me just scroll up the page here.
The last 2 redrafts I've done, Burrow went before Murray, Jackson, Brady,
mental.
Wilson, Holmes.
The cost on him is crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got Burrow at the moment sitting at 11.
And would you say Burrow last year had his top season? That's his ceiling season.
I think he improves. But I think it's incremental. I don't think he's going to go from where he was last season to this elite level.
Correct. So he finished as wide receiver 7 last year, right?
Quarterback 7. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Of course he did. But Lamar missed games. Murray missed games.
Yep.
Who else missed games? Can't remember now.
I just don't understand. Russell Wilson missed games.
Russell Wilson missed games. I think all 3 of them outscore him.
I 100%. I have all of those players above in the rankings.
I think Derek Carr would have Adams could outscore him this year.
See, I'm less optimistic of that. I think there is a ceiling to Derek Carr, and he's kind of at where he is. So for me, the players I have over Joe Burrow are Allen, Herbert, Brady, Mahomes, Jackson, Murray, Rodgers, Prescott, Hurts, Wilson.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
I could make a case for Matt Stafford. I haven't because I baked in a little bit of I think Matt Stafford's going to struggle a little bit this year, but I can't. For me,
but if you're sat on that bit and they're both there, you're probably picking Matt Stafford over Joe Burrow.
I mean,
hedge your bets. Take different competitions, take different ones.
Yeah, I probably would hedge him, but I wouldn't be able. So for me, I think Joe Burrow's massively overdrafted, and he won't end up on any of my teams this year, and that's fine by me.
Cool.
Running back for me, running back's a hard one because everyone I'm with you on Javonte Williams by a country mile, by the way. I can't disagree with that. The other one for me is Antonio Gibson at the start of the third round.
Okay.
The players going behind him in drafts. J.K. Dobbins, I'd rather have over Gibson. David Montgomery, I certainly want over him. Ezekiel Elliott, God, that's no contest. Leonard Fournette, really no contest. Jacobs, no contest. Akers, no contest. For me, James Conner.
Me at that stage.
Okay, James Conner, I'm definitely taking over. Over him. Okay. No contest. I just think for me, I'm looking at where I've got Antonio Gibson. I've got Antonio Gibson quite a way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I've got him at 20.
Okay.
I've got him at 20. I'll be 20. It's where I've got him. It's about where he was
I'll be
last
16
season.
the last draft I done.
Yeah, I think that's high. So I can't see it. I think for me, he's in a tier with Elijah Mitchell, Cordell Patterson. That's kind of where I have him. So I'm not interested at that sort of cost. So I think for me, massively overrated. He's got more competition than he ever has. I think Wentz is going to go out of a point to prove. They don't run the ball well, Washington. They haven't for a few years. What are we expecting here, people? I think he's going to get work, but I think he is what he is. Wide receiver, there's two for me that really stand out. Three, because you've mentioned T. Higgins. T. Higgins in the third round is just crazy. The guy's not going to finish as a wide receiver one. People need to just jump off this bandwagon. He's a mid to low range.
He'll have breakout games. He'll have standout games.
Of course he will.
When the coverage is good on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, 100% with you on that. DJ Moore, don't understand why he's going in the third or fourth round right now. Has anyone worked out who's throwing him the ball this season?
No.
Sam
he's always returned solid numbers regardless of that, but that's too early. Drop him a round or two. And you're okay.
Fifth round, fine. If it's a fifth round
player,
chuck him
with Godwin.
No, Godwin massively is going to outperform him. It's not even close. There's no point. Look at who you can get. So DJ Moore's going in the sort of mid to late third round. Mid to late third round is DJ Moore. These are the players you can get around.
What I'm looking at, I haven't got him going that early.
Okay,
I've got him in between Pittman, Moore, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson.
See, how is that a tier? How is any of those guys? How is DJ Moore?
Is it? Deontay Johnson was wide receiver 8. Let's have a look. Michael Pittman was wide receiver 17. Amari Cooper finished as wide receiver 27. And DJ Moore, to cap the lot, 18. Yeah. So we've gone from 8 to 27 in 4 picks. So they're back-to-back in 4 picks. In fact, let me predicate that. The pick before him was Brandon Ayuk.
Right.
Brandon Ayuk 35.
He was injured a little bit, and he was in a difficult situation. I think he improves. Michael Pittman has got a better quarterback this season, and he's got less competition. He's ended up with a much better situation than he had a year ago. Deontay Johnson, as you said, wide receiver 8, shouldn't even be in the conversation. He should be well clear of this. I just don't get it. I don't get his price. I don't get it at all. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm quite happy to. He should be going DJ Moore as where you say wide receiver 18. That kind of range for me, I can go, okay. I think anywhere from 16 to 24, you can kind of throw a hat on where he is. So I have DJ Moore next to Pittman in my rankings, and I've been conservative with my picks. But Deontay Johnson should be miles above. It's not even funny how that works. For me, DJ Moore's he's in that sort of tier with Terry McLaurin, Darnell Mooney, Courtland Sutton. That's the kind of range that I see. I just don't see any upside. I don't see any upside for him. That's my kind of problem. I'm staying well clear of that. So
awesome.
Yeah, that and then tight end, Pitts,
Yep.
Waller, Kittle,
It's a good bracket.
yeah, Hawkinson. Those four
Yep.
can just
Yep.
they're not going to be on any of my rosters this season, and that's fine by me.
Nice question, Matt.
Yeah, it's thanks, Stacey, and then reverse it around. So we're giving you some good strategy, I think, tonight, and some good players to definitely think about and look at moving forward to avoid or to buy. So we've kind of done a highs and lows, which is good. It's not planned, but it's always good to do them.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to cover off?
No, not for me. I don't think. I think we're done. Everyone now knows how me and you approach every draft, so that's us not winning anything this year. So yeah.
No, I've definitely found it harder since writing the books. People definitely are well on to me in terms of what I do in drafts, and it is quite annoying.
Can I just say one strategy I do have, and it won't work because we've been talking about a standard 1 QB setup league, right?
Yeah.
When you have a different scoring format, Range Bowl does it, FFCC not so much, JTT Cup does it, Scottish Bowl does it. I like to do something incredibly different.
Yeah.
I like to think outside the box, especially if I find myself in the 11-12 on a 1-2 spot, where you can really impact the rest of a draft by doing something stupid. And it may be stupid, but I like to do that, to throw other people out, to see who's actually paid attention to the unique scoring or unique roster construction or unique plan. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I get a one-up on somebody. Great. I've studied this better than you have and worked out what I'm doing. But even if I don't, actually it can throw other people off enough that it will even itself back out come the end. And it just means you can find later value somewhere in them different scoring format drafts. Stop being the regimented what everything is and actually throw something out there different sometimes, especially if you draft a lot with the same people.
Couldn't agree more with you.
We were speaking actually just before I come on here, weren't we, about my Fantasy Cares Eliminator?
Yeah.
Where I'm 12 picks in and I don't have a skill player.
No.
I have 2 QBs, 5 kickers, and 5 defenses.
Absolutely. And I think that's the absolute right approach. I think you've got to listen, you're not going to win these major tournaments, these big tournaments, by doing something that's just out of the box.
Yep.
Like, you have to be different.
Yeah.
You have to get lucky, first of all, but you have to do something that's just bizarre. You just have to.
Yep.
You can't just sit on your laurels and go, okay, I'm going to, as you say, these plans that we're talking about are standard leagues.
Yep.
I won't advocate. I won't. Yeah, exactly. I won't advocate these in a large tournament play.
No,
I don't.
No.
Except maybe the 2 running backs early if the scoring suits it. Fair enough. But I think the rest of it, probably, I'm with you. I think I wouldn't be touching it with a barge pump because it doesn't work.
It's just great fun, Murf. It's just great fun to do something unexpected and really provoke a conversation and a reaction from others. And it does throw people off.
I drafted. Not this year, not last year, the year before. I drafted the 12th spot in the Scottish Bowl, and I absolutely drove people up the wall because I'd go double tight end, double quarterback.
I didn't arrange Steve Range Bowl the other year. Took Kittle and Kelsey, I think, on a turn.
The Steve Range Bowl. I think I took about 7 tight ends.
Yeah.
It was the same with the UK FFL, not last fantasy or UK football. The one that they've stopped doing this year, the fantasy league.
I know, Ben. Yeah.
Not last year, but the year before. I was in the draft with James, AVFC James, and me and him were messaging on the side because no one had worked out the scoring. So everyone's drafting normally, and me and him had taken all the tight ends, like all of them. And
that was the one I finished third in that year.
Yeah, that's right.
I was winning it going into the last week, and Alvin Kamara dropped 6 touchdowns on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finished
I remember
third.
that. I think I was 17th in that. But yeah, and that's my point is we were messing each other through this draft because we were at complete opposite end of the draft board, just like we're in a completely different draft to the rest of this room, and I absolutely love it because me and him got out of that division because we just absolutely killed it. We just took all the tight ends off the board. I was starting 5 tight ends a week.
Yeah.
Because the scoring was heavily focused on tight ends.
So I guess the best strategy we can give to anybody is actually look at what the league is you're joining.
Yeah.
before you draft it.
Read the scoring.
Read the rules and the scoring and the roster construction. It's probably the best bit of strategy, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And if it's in Sleeper, if you look at the scoring, they highlight unusual anomalies in the scoring for you. It has a bright line behind it. So it does show you what is different, what's been changed from standard. So it's not that hard to find. So,
yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Anything else, big man, from you?
Just that the fantasy football playbook will be done this week. It's nearly done. All the major stuffs are written and all the major stuff is edited.
Super.
It's just putting in a last set of data that needs to go in and writing up the cards for that. So it's not far away now. So I'm hoping, it depends how quickly we can get it through the process of getting it published, which doesn't take that long, but it does take a little while. So we need to just work through that. I'm hoping we can get it live in a couple of weeks. That would be the dream. But it's going to be soon. So fingers crossed. And wish me luck as we get to the end of this journey. But you might see a tweet from me at some point this week saying it's done with some form of celebratory thing, because this has been a labor of love. I've had to rewrite over half this like twice, so I've talked about that. So I fingers crossed it is almost all together and it's almost all done. Literally just one final chart, a couple of little bits and pieces, and we'll be good to go.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. Right. I think that's it then, Murf, right?
I think that is it. So Rush Nation, thanks very much for tuning in. Any questions from the strategies, please do just drop us a line. You know where to find us. You got Dan, you got me here on Twitter, pretty active. Just get in touch. You know how to find us. And share the questions. Next week, hopefully, we'll be able to go through some of our rankings for redraft, and we'll be able to pick through some differences and where we are with our rankings, and talk about them and share the knowledge, and kind of an expansion of this one. So we're starting to look at why we value players the way we do, and at the same token, starting to think about where we're going to line people up for the season.
I've got Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon in the same tier.
I think I have them differentiated by one tier, but it's only like a very small gap. It's not a big one. But yes, we'll go through that next week. So look forward to that one. Any questions you want us to answer next week, please do get in touch. And also, there's been a couple of competitions, so I'm going to announce the winners of those next week and go through them. So one of them is the Steve Rains Bowl giveaway, which you can get involved by commenting on the 600th episode on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and explain why you want in the Steve Rains Bowl. I had the great pleasure of talking to Steve a few years ago, and it's a shame we lost him because he was an absolutely top bloke. And I look forward to playing in that tournament in his honor. So it's a great tournament, and get involved. So 5 spots we're giving away, and then also we'll be giving away the consistency guides. So find the pinned tweet and hashtag I love consistency, and we'll go from there. Awesome. Right. Keep rushing then. All right. As always, next week we'll talk strategy. But until then, as always, don't forget, keep rushing.